you feel that? I'm like, okay, at one point, I never thought I would even see London, and I live here. At one point, 3 years ago, I had zero experience as a consultant on my resume. And now I'm a consultant with experience that goes out and
so many clients.
and works with clients. At one point, I didn't have a master's degree. Now I do. At one point, I didn't have a bachelor's degree, and now I do. At one point, I didn't think I'd go to college, and then I did. So I just remind myself of every checkpoint that I got to. And I'm like, if I did all that, what's to say I can't do the next thing? So,
hello everyone, good afternoon. We are in London with a fantastic person, Blair Wagner. Is that how you pronounce
Wagner,
it? Wagner, sorry.
That's okay.
She works in learning and development, managing different accounts for different clients internationally, and ultimately helping people to develop their way through a better place, right? In many elements of business. Blair, could you tell us a little bit more about who you are?
Yeah. Oh, that's a big question. Well, I'm Blair. As you just shared, I'm a learning and development consultant here in London. But previously, I lived in Savannah, Georgia. That's where I grew up. I moved to London 4 years ago to pursue a master's degree in anthropology. I've always had a big fascination with understanding people, understanding different cultures, and understanding how we connect and work with each other. And I think that's what led me into this career, and now ultimately sitting on this couch with Fred.
It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, this is so surreal.
Yeah.
So surreal for me. It's crazy. I feel just privileged to be here, sitting on this couch with you and surrounded by all the nice people here.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were a bit uncertain, the most uncertain about life?
Yeah. I would say I went through high school thinking I was pretty certain of what I wanted to do. I originally, and it's funny because I just told this story last week in a session, but I originally thought that I was going to study like fashion advertising. Like I had that all laid out because I went to an arts-based high school. So I always thought I was going to end up in this creative field. And then due to like personal life stuff, I had to pivot and actually wasn't sure of what I wanted to do. And I ended up taking an offer from a school that was more financially motivated because they basically offered me enough money to go for free. And so that kind of flipped my life plans. And I went to the school not having a major declared because they didn't have what I wanted to study. And then I kind of went in with like no idea of what to do. And so that's what led to me actually dropping out for a bit. And then I took some time to get, I was 19, probably 19, 20. Yeah, because I went to college straight after high school. I didn't take that break. And that's the thing in America as well, right? We don't have gap year culture, which I actually think now that I've, lived outside of the States and seen that other countries have that, I think it's really, really good that some people do take a gap year. I think it's necessary because looking back, of course I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had an idea, but it ultimately wouldn't have worked out even if I went down that path. Well, who knows? So I took some time out to just sort of get to know myself. I think I had just been in such like a path of like study, which was something that was drilled into me when I was younger. Not a bad thing, but education was always a priority, a really, really big value. And then I, took some time out, got to know myself. And then
how old were you when all this?
So that was like from probably 20 to 23. I took a few years and just kind of worked in different things like freelanced, stuff like that. And then I realized I missed the learning environment. I wanted more of a structure. So I went back, and what changed everything was one professor. I was taking my English course, and he pulled me aside after class and said, you're a really good writer and you're really good at actually getting other people to speak up in class and say things. You're good at like generating conversation. I'd never been told that before in my life. Well, I'd been told when I was younger that I was, a good writer, but I just didn't take it seriously. I didn't have like a lot of confidence in that skill. And then he said, what's your major? And I said, I'm undeclared right now. He said, you should really consider joining this program. And at the time they were developing this sort of hybrid English literature, but also English communication. So getting to study that side, but also learning how to write for businesses, a little bit of PR, journalism. And it seemed like the perfect program for me because I realized then the issue of why I could never decide what I wanted to do is because I've always wanted to do a little bit of everything. I've never been someone that just had like one certain path.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. And then he sort of mentored me because he saw something and wanted to make sure that I got that support. I just never had that level of support before.
And what do you think was the main element from his mentorship that enabled you to define, to narrow it down towards a specific path out of a situation in which you were not certain about, doing this, and this? What do you think was the main piece of advice or main approach or strategy that he helped you with?
Honestly, highlighting what I was good at. That was something that, and I actually take that with me now, is I respond to constructive feedback. I do. I always want to know how I can improve. But I think what really helps me and motivates me is when someone tells me like what my strengths are, because I don't always look for that in myself. Yeah. So it was the first time somebody told me that I was good at something. And I think that's what put me on that path that I was like, oh, I do have a strength here. And then it gave me confidence to then try other things. Okay. Also, it was just the way I don't know, I think we just clicked. Like he just had a good way of communicating in general. Was like very kind and was always open to all my questions, like just had a lot of patience, things like that. So he made me feel comfortable asking the right questions, coming to him when I had issues and things like that. And then he would just give me ideas for things to do too. He's like, oh, you should take this course, you should do that. Okay. Yeah.
So I think one of the main points up until this point of the story is getting someone to mentor you, to guide you. Yeah. I feel that, at least in my part of the world, we struggle to ask for that because we don't have that reference. It's not such a well-known activity, having a mentor. Yeah. It's like almost, at least for individuals in South America, it's almost like when you ask for help, you are not as good. So you are asking because you have less value, less knowledge. Yeah. And I can relate to that. And I think that's why I had that experience, because my family's from Central America. So it's kind of like a similar thing. It's like, if you don't know how to do something, you put your head down and you figure it out. Yeah. You don't really, so the concept of a mentor was kind of foreign to me. Yes. It was, no, you learn it, you figure it out, you work hard until you're good at it. Yeah. So I think that's why I never even sought out that type of assistance. So it was good that it kind of came to me. I think I got very lucky that, because he could have never said anything, but he chose to have that conversation with me, which is what opened my eyes to this, that pathway. Would you say that was the triggering point in which you decided maybe to pursue a path in which you also enable that happening in other people? Definitely. Because of that, when I got the offer, and I know we talked about this a little bit, I then got the offer in my third year to become a peer mentor, which was a new position that they opened up, which is a blend of being a teacher's assistant, but specifically for freshman students or first year students, to make sure that, because sometimes the other thing with students early on is they may not feel as comfortable going to a professor if they have issues. So a way that my uni was trying to deal with that is put peer mentors in class, people who were like closer in age, so that they could kind of be this in between, because they may feel more comfortable coming to me versus a professor. They may be a bit intimidated. So when that position was offered to me, because not only would I then, the benefit for me was to then have this access to the professor as well, be able to learn from them, because I was also her research assistant. And then I was able to teach some classes, so I would get that experience, but then also get to just like directly help freshman students, so they could come to me for anything. It could be related to their work, but also if they just need someone to talk to. Yeah. I jumped at the opportunity because that's something that I could have used in my freshman year as well. Okay. That probably would have kept me from just thinking the solution was dropping out. So yeah, that really helped a lot. Okay. Yeah. And then in this point of the story, then how did you manage to move to where you are at the moment in the UK, from the States to here? Yeah, so something that I always say is I adopted a personal mantra, like a life mantra that I think has helped me push through any sort of hesitation or fear. And I'm not saying that I don't still fall victim to that. I definitely do. But I realized very quickly through uni that a lot of opportunities that I missed were because of a fear of rejection. Yeah. So I kind of picked up this, and you probably heard it if you haven't. Some people have heard it, some people haven't, but like the answer is always no until you ask. Yes. And it reminds me that even if the answer is no, I'm still in the same spot. So it's like, it can't get worse. It can only get better. Yeah, and so anytime that I got to a point where I was, nervous or scared to open my mouth and ask for something, I just told myself, well, it's going to be no anyway, right? Like I'm still going to be in the same spot. If the answer is no, then I'm right back where I'm at. I'm not going backwards. I'm just where I'm at. I can only go forwards. So I think that really helped with my decisions to apply for a school here to get my master's, and then the decision to move and all of that. I just always had that in my mind that the only way is forward. Like it can only get better. Yes. So yeah, I think that helped a lot. In your journey, I think two elements can be highlighted. So one is going out of the comfort zone from a very uncertain position in your life, and the other one is this leveraging on the strengths that can be very useful to narrow the path down. But you also mentioned that being in situations of fear It's useful to remember when we're at the table.
Yeah.
What is your position now in that? Because growth is uncomfortable, is it?
Yeah.
And even though you have strengths that you can leverage on, you have a side that's not as positive, right? How do you see that now?
Yeah, I definitely still think that fear can be good, if that's what you're asking. And I think the moment that I stop feeling like afraid of certain things, that means I'm getting like a bit stale. So I lean into that. I try as much as possible to do things that scare me. Like if I have an idea, I'm immediately like, oh no, I don't know if I should do that. I think I actually have trained myself to think maybe that is something I should look into, because why does that scare me? So using fear as kind of like a guide. Now, obviously, fear is there for a reason. Like sometimes there are genuinely bad ideas and maybe you shouldn't do certain things. Right? But look at like why something is scary. Is it scary because it's genuinely like not a path you should go down? Or is it scary because you just don't know yet and leaning into the unknown? And I think how I deal with it now is I think about all the times I was scared previously and pushed through, and then how it's gotten me to where I am now. So past experiences, and the more you do that can really help moving forward.
Absolutely. That's such a useful advice. I think keeping that scare element underneath your experience, because that relates to uncertainty, and that also relates to opportunity for growth, for exploration. Like before coming to London, you had one image of what was gonna your life be, but then now that you know it, you have a different image. But only, even though there's tons of information in the internet, you know it because you have experienced it through moving through that. Painful at the beginning, I believe, but then once you reached cruise velocity, cruise speed, then you are experiencing what you are now. You do learning and development, right? And that is why actually one of the elements what I actually wanted you to share your lessons with the people. What do you think? Because everyone wants to growth, but not everyone does it. There's a lot of maybe fear, or maybe we stay in the comfort zone because it's comfortable, right? What would you say to someone that wants to grow, that wants to learn and develop? What would that first step be?
Hire us to help. No, I'm kidding. Sales pitch. Honestly, self-awareness, a lot of self-awareness. Like if you're able to unpack why, because normally it's self-limiting beliefs. And if you can acknowledge that it's a self-limiting belief and then try to figure out what is the underlying reason for that self-limiting belief, then you can attack that head on. That's the way I look at it personally. Like I try to think like why, like if I want to grow in that area, but I'm not, what is the reason that I'm not growing in that area? And then how can I face that? In
a world so full of stimuli, in a world so full of social media, people talking to us, getting so much input, how would you advise someone to do this, to have this time to think and to this
silence it? Sometimes you have to. I mean, there's two approaches, right? Because people are going to use social media no matter what. And I try my best, I'm not saying it's perfect, but to follow content creators or, accounts that surround whatever I'm trying to grow in at the time. So like currently I have like a big focus on increasing like my physical fitness. So I'll follow like a lot of like fitness creators or things like that, because then that motivates me. Right. Or if I find that, whatever I'm experiencing when I go on social media is not helping me and making me feel bad and actually putting me, because oftentimes I think a lot of people will find themselves comparing themselves to people on social media, then get away from it as much as you can, because it's not going to help you. And also something that I also think when I do see people and I see that they're doing something that maybe I want to try as well, I just remind myself that the only difference between me and them is that they're just doing it. So you just, not to sound like Nike right now, but you just have to do it. Because procrastination and the pursuit of like perfection is what stops a lot of people from doing what they want to do, myself included. I'm not saying I've mastered that,
nothing's perfect,
but it's natural. Like people are scared to start things or do things sometimes, or get into that growth phase or that growth trajectory because they're scared that the outcome won't be what they want it to be. And I think that is the hurdle, right? Between you and the person that you want to be, is facing that fear. Because the truth is, this middle bit is going to be messy, and it's not going to be fun, and you're going to have like obstacles. And I think if you can just acknowledge that and accept it, then just go for it.
And ultimately, it's not going to get any harder than that.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you living?
I'm off, man. Great to see you today.
Yeah, likewise.
That's
Thank you
right.
very much
Have
for
a great
everything.
weekend here
You too.
in London with your friends.
Thank you very much for everything. It's been such an amazing experience. Now I'm recording a podcast with
Yeah.
you're in the podcast.
Look at that.
Say hi.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I was saying when you face that fear, it doesn't get any worse than that.
Yeah.
Does it?
No.
Because you are there, then you know how it feels. Then
Yeah.
the next time, you already know it.
Exactly.
So you
Yeah.
learn to match it better.
And to be honest, I think like this job has helped a lot with that, because a lot of this job is sometimes doing something that you've never done before, or you have to, and I struggled with that a lot my first year. It's like, I don't know how to do this. I don't want to touch it, but like you can't know how to do everything perfectly the first time. And we don't have time to, to like think about how to do, sometimes you just have to get it done. So I think like I'm able to say that because I've had a lot of practice in this job with having to jump into things and just figure it out as I go. So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think also it's important to mention that people are usually understanding and comprehensive when we are in this position, because we all started at a point in which we had to learn from scratch.
Yep.
So there's the empathy and compassion element. No one's going to come. I mean, most of the people
Most
are
people.
not going to come and scream at you if you don't know to do something, how to do something, right?
But I think going back to the point that I said earlier, right? Remind yourself that everything that you can do now,
Yes.
you didn't know how to do at one point,
Yep.
and you had to learn, and now you can do that thing. So I just remind myself, what's to stop me from doing that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
like,
true.
because anxiety and fear are very real.
Yeah, true.
But I just, when I do feel that, I'm like, okay, at one point, I never thought I would even see London, and I live here. At one point, 3 years ago, I had zero experience as a consultant on my resume, and now I'm a consultant with experience that goes out and
So many clients.
and works with clients. At one point, I didn't have a bachelor's degree. Now I do.
Yeah.
At one point, I didn't have a bachelor's degree, and now I do. At one point, I didn't think I'd go to college, and then I did. So I just remind myself of every checkpoint that I got to, and I'm like, if I did all that, what's to say I can't do the next thing? So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is why I actually want to share these stories with people, because especially on my side of the world, and you can relate to it.
Yeah.
The lack of visibility of opportunities, what's out there, it's what hampers them potentially. And even myself, back in the day when I decided to take that leap, I was not aware that this could be possible.
Yeah.
So many things can be possible, but only when someone dares to share that, to show it's possible.
Yeah.
Just like yourself. I imagine that many of your friends back in the day couldn't have imagined that you would be doing what you're doing in this moment.
Yeah.
It's starting with you, right? Your family.
Yeah.
But now you're doing this. You know
Yeah.
it's possible that. So what couldn't hamper you from doing anything now
Exactly.
for the way forward? And it's the same exercise. I think the principles are the same from 100 years ago to now. The difference is the action that we take. Like I read a quote yesterday that says, "You can't learn to swim by reading about water."
yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. yeah.
Thank you very much for everything that you've shared there.
Of course. Oh, thank you. This is great what you're doing.
I have just two final requests.
Yep.
Would you like to summarize the recap of the lessons? So we covered first of all your journey from college dropout to finding your path through. So what would you say that the main lesson was in there? So I think mentorship, the mentorship that you were able to take. And then when your personal side.
I would say learn your strengths, like get feedback from people.
Yes.
Because that helps a lot. If you are confused, I know a lot of people say, sorry, now I tend to go on tangents. Let me summarize. But yeah, mentorship, learn your strengths, get feedback, and lean into fear.
Yes.
I would say, if I was to try to summarize all of that.
Very useful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Okay. That's it for today.
See you tomorrow.